ahead and get started. Thank you all for coming out today. My name is Angie Royal, and I'm Director for Student Involvement, but I'm here in a different capacity today. I'm a staff fellow for Leadership and Supervision. I'm blessed to have my pals here, Candace, Terry, and Jonathan Hunn, so that we can talk and have an open conversation about mental health in the workplace. I think we tend to have, and I know, especially in my office, we have lots of conversations about students' mental health, and we offer all of these resources for students, but I don't know that we always talk about it from a faculty and staff perspective. So as I was brainstorming some ideas for workshops this semester and having had some experiences in my own office with staff with mental health issues, it became clear that this was a conversation that we probably needed to have. So thank you all for coming out today. And hopefully you'll leave here feeling a little bit more confident about supporting others that are on your team that may be struggling with some kind of mental health issue. So just to put it into perspective, I wanted to show you some facts about mental health. The World Health Organization recently reported that an estimated 12 billion working days will be lost due to untreated mental illness by the year 2030, which will result in a global cost of $925 billion. So this is an extremely important topic for the workplace that we do need to discuss. In a 2015 study done at Harvard, they found that the workplace actually causes common stressors that can lead to depression, anxiety, and I see lots of smiles and nods. I know myself, being director of student involvement, you can bet there are days that I'm like stressed to the max and don't want to get out of bed because I know I have to face so many challenges when I come into work. So it absolutely can lead to mental health issues. And in a 2014 study published in the Journal of Occupational and Environmental Medicine, they did find that depression is associated with an increased risk of injury at the job place. If you're not focused, that can lead to distractions, which can cause to injury, which then, of course, can cost the company millions of dollars. So it is absolutely a topic that needs to be discussed. It's nothing that we can pretend doesn't happen. And so today we want to share with you some signs of somebody maybe struggling with a mental health issue, and then what we can do to create a more accommodating workplace. Because unfortunately, you're probably not always going to have somebody come up to you and say, hey, guess what? I'm depressed, or I suffer from anxiety. And I have found, after working with a couple of staff members who ultimately did disclose that to me, that completely changes sometimes how you need to address things with those staff. So know that they're probably not always going to be open about it, but Jonathan's going to help us identify some signs and symptoms so that maybe even if they aren't clinically depressed, they are going through something that we need to be mindful of and be supportive of them. So I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Jonathan now, who's going to talk to you about the mental health aspect.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
So I'm going to talk to you a little bit about some warning signs of some common mental health issues that happen in the workforce every day, and allow you all to ask some questions throughout our topic or our discussion today. I know we all deal with mental health issues every day, no matter if it's positive or negative, but I'm going to talk about a little bit about some of the warning signs of that. All right. So certain life events and circumstances may trigger the onset of many disorders. And some of the things that people deal with are exposure to trauma. Can anybody tell me what are some of the traumas that a person may deal with that your coworkers may be dealing with? Anybody know? Anything? What are some of the traumas that people deal with?
Passing of a family member.
Passing of a family member could be very traumatic. Some of the stressors or pressures just from every day doing your job or from home life could be some of the warning signs. Are the triggers from this: loss or grief again, and relocation. Relocation from one department to another, relocation from one area of the country or from the city to another city, all may be triggers for some people. Some of the top 5 mental health issues that adults deal with over the age of 18. Can somebody name me, who can name me some of the top issues that people deal with? Money, okay. I'm talking about mental health issues. Depression. Anxiety. What else? OCD could be. What are the top 5? What do you think are the top 5? Suicide. Some eating disorders, and addictions are probably the top 5 things that this population, adults over the age of 18, especially a lot of us have student workers who work in many of our offices, our departments, and so many times we're dealing with these things that are that those individuals are coming in with. So when we think about some of the warning signs, there can be warning signs in social interactions. So this includes isolation and withdrawal. It also includes like excessive talking, feelings of loneliness, and feeling rejected. There could be some appetite changes that you may notice from coworkers. It could be sudden increase in appetite or a decrease in appetite. There could be some weight loss associated with some of the warning signs, and also some hostility. Some verbal or physical threats, angry outbursts, or destruction of property. So those are some of the warning signs that you really have to pay close attention to. I know not everyone, that experiences any of these symptoms, does that mean that they're suffering from mental illness? No, not in and of itself. But if you have a combination of things maybe going on, that you maybe one day that you're seeing maybe this person has lost a lot of weight, or you may see that they're being isolated. You may begin to put those puzzle pieces together to understand maybe what this person is going through. Also, some other warning signs that an individual may be experiencing are recurring thoughts or nightmares about an event, having trouble sleeping, changes in appetite again, anxiety and fear, being on edge, feeling depressed, sad, or just having some low energy. Other warning signs could be signs of suicide. So maybe that person may be giving things away, or they may be talking about death more than usual. Their mood could be changed, more cheerful. Their appearance could be changing. Their hygiene could be changing. So there's a lot of these warning signs that you may not, in and of itself, any one particular thing, but a combination of things that may be going on with the person. Their thought process may be changing, trouble concentrating, sleep disturbances. They may be talking about insomnia or nightmares. And there may be some medication, something going on with their medication. They're resistant to medication or self-medicating with alcohol or other drugs. So these are some of the warning signs that you may see in the workforce. Did anybody else have any warning signs that they may have saw dealing with some of the coworkers? Anybody? Yes.
I can share something.
Sure.
I had somebody that worked for me who, from the moment he started, no matter what mistake he made, he always felt like he was going to get fired. Everything was the end of the world. In fact, we jokingly called him Chicken Little because it was always the sky is falling. And I never understood, and I took it personally. I'm like, am I that horrible of a leader that he thinks I'm going to fire him for everything that he does wrong? Because we do all make mistakes. And then he did ultimately disclose to me that he suffered from severe anxiety. And I'm like, that makes sense. So I had to always be very cautious when I would address situations with him because I knew he was going to naturally be anxious about it and be on edge. And so after the fact, knowing that that was what he was going through, I'm like, okay, this makes sense now. Everything was always a bigger deal than in my mind what I imagined. So
good example. I know many times it's hard to maybe discuss these situations with employees, and I'm sure HR is going to share a little bit more than what I do. But I think that a lot of things that we do in mental health is just common sense things. If you see a person hurting, you may ask, I see that you're hurting, or I see that you're sad today. Do you want to talk about it? Do you want to know what's so that I can help you? So you don't have to be a clinician to be a caring person. But if it goes beyond your scope, of course, you're going to send them over to HR, those employees over to HR so that they can get the services that they need. And HR is going to talk about that next, I believe.
jump in here for a second.
Sure.
So The reason why I think this conversation is really important is because for many people who do suffer from some kind of mental struggle, the successfully maintaining a job is an essential part of their well-being. So it's important that we do recognize what we can do to make their lives more comfortable when they are at work. So some of the things that we can absolutely do, which is hopefully what we're doing today, is just educating people about mental health and openly talking about it. Unfortunately, there is still a stigma attached to mental health concerns. But if we create an environment where we openly speak about mental health issues and we do recognize warning signs and symptoms, hopefully our employees will be more comfortable coming to us when they are going through something and identifying what we can do to help them. Another very important thing, which Candace is going to talk to us about, is making certain your employees know and understand what resources are offered to them. Lindenwood does offer amazing resources, not just for our students, but also for our faculty and staff who might be struggling with some mental health issues, such as the Employee Assistance Program. So I'm going to turn it over to Candace, who's going to talk to us a little more about that.
So, if you're not aware, we do have an employee assistance program. I encourage everybody to use it. It's not just your traditional counseling resource. That's kind of how it started. It's free, it's confidential to you or anybody under your roof. So if you're taking care of parents, grandparents, children, stepchildren, this is available to everybody. I only ever get reports that show me utilization. So many people called about elder care management this month. I don't know who it is unless you come and tell me. So I do encourage people to use it. It is, we're going to talk more today about the traditional counseling side, but there are a lot of other resources that can still fall under mental health. So I just want you to be aware. This can be utilized in phone or by person. Of course, your first contact with them would be a phone call, but then they will schedule an in-person session with you. Again, it is free counseling, so there's no copay. Lindenwood does pay for this benefit for you or anybody in your household. And there's also a national network. So if you have kiddos in college, in another state, or even a couple hours away, there are locations where they can go to access this information. So I like to make that clear to everybody. And I always say if you have, parents or grandparents living with you, they can access this as well. Typically, I don't see that a whole lot. It's mostly kids and employees, but I just want to make sure that everybody knows that anybody can use it. So you can use things like your traditional counseling, so problem solving, substance abuse, even parenting I've seen, lifestyle factors. These are things like elder care management, tobacco cessation. I always say we're a tobacco-free campus, and if you're on our insurance plan, I would love it if you quit smoking. So we also have nutrition counseling, motivation, things like that. As far as legal, identity theft, wills, divorce, financial, debt management, college planning, and career and work. So under this, I would place work-life balance and retirement planning, so they can help connect you to a lot of those resources. And then there's also resources and referral services. So I'm very passionate about elder care management. I have a second master's here from gerontology, and there's a lot of resources out there. They're hard. They're not hard to find, but it's hard to know about them. They're kind of almost hidden resources. So I'm always available to help you with those, but so is EAP. And then also childcare resources and referral services. So everybody knows I'm a dog person. I don't have kids at my house, but I have a lot of fur children who I care for, who are also elderly. So I would call them and I'd say, hey, I need a doggy daycare for 4 Chihuahuas. May or may not be the most well-behaved dogs in the world, but I love them. I'm just not in denial about them. And I need a doggy daycare for them. This is my zip code. This is my budget. So they will help and do all of that that research for you. That is something I know a lot of our employees stress out about. Oh my gosh, childcare. Wow, that costs more than I make in a month. And it never surprises me. I see all kinds of prices on it. So that's something that can take a lot of stress off of you. So let them do all that research for you. if they get bad, and then if you do that, they'll always come back with a survey, and it's really important for you to fill that out, because if you don't like something about that facility, they're not going to refer other employees using this again to them. So just so you know how that part works. Lindenwood is also here, and I call Lindenwood, built in with our insurance program now, a force cuddle. That's what I call when I hold one of my dogs that doesn't want to be held at the moment. So we are making you love Lindenwood if you're on an insurance program. But we do try to incorporate all the dimensions of wellness. So physical, emotional, intellectual, social, spiritual, environmental, and occupational. There's a lot of models out there, but the most accepted one are these seven dimensions of wellness. So if one of these dimensions is significantly impacted, that's going to impact all of the others, and that's going to impact your everyday life. So I will give you an example. A lot of employees come to my office for a lot of different reasons, but I see a lot of mental health come through, and a lot of them are really embarrassed when they come in to talk about mental health. And I don't want anybody to feel that way, because I can give you plenty of examples where I wasn't my best self, and we all go through it. So what I always say is we had an employee a couple years ago who had their mother-in-law living with them, had COPD. They had 3 kids. Both parents worked. It was always, I go to work all day. I then have to pick up the first kid, take them to a practice. I pick up the second kid from their music lesson. I come home. The other parent takes care of the other 2 kids. And then we get home and we have to take care of their mother-in-law. So that's a lot to put on a person. Because somebody with COPD has a lot of needs. They're mentally there, but they don't have the physical capacity to really contribute to the household. It's like having another child. How do you think that person's 7 dimensions of wellness look? They're probably, I mean, it's only a matter of time, and they're going to break. So that's a lot. Even without all those things, just having a lot of other commitments, or a full-time job with a lot of pressure, you know, those things can kind of suffer. How do you think she's performing at work? Maybe some performance concerns, maybe some other things going on, missing deadlines, coming in late or calling in a lot. These are things that I would tell you to contact me about, because a lot of times there are underlying issues, especially if you know if there's things going on at home. And then I can work with that person to try to connect them with either our insurance resources, EAP resources, or anything else I can give them. Especially with our insurance, you know, we do have a really strong mental health module built within our medical insurance. And so I really encourage people to reach out to me to get them connected with those. As far as our Lindenwood challenges, we do try to incorporate all of these aspects of wellness. It's not just about the physical, it's about the emotional as well. So one of the things that we regularly incorporate that Ryan Whitley worked really hard on are like mental health breaks or rest breaks, because those are really essential. So our goal really with that is to hopefully impact people's lives by very, very small changes. So I get people in athletics or School of Health Sciences, and they're like, how are you doing all this stuff? Do I have to cross this stuff off? Well, yeah, it's easy for you, but somebody who's never done any of this before, having them do a 10-second plank, that's a lot. Maybe it'll make them feel good and encourage them to do more down the line. That's all we're trying to do, make them feel better. So it all will eventually all impact all of these things, including your emotional and mental health. The financial side of me will also say we want to promote a proactive culture for preventative health and health awareness. Things like diabetes. That is a breeding ground for depression. Who likes being told that they have a life-altering illness or disease? It's pretty depressing. Then maybe, you know, you get kind of down about that. You don't want to do exercise, you don't want to eat well. Maybe you don't have the energy to cook something, so you grab some fast food. And it is kind of a downward spiral from that. We don't want people to get into those habits. You know, depression is a very serious thing. One of the major top comorbidities with something like diabetes is depression. So, and then that can just kind of drag everything else down from there. So we want to prevent all of those things from happening. Any questions about those? Okay.
So Candace mentioned the resources for faculty and staff, but when we're talking about student workers, please don't forget that we also have the Student Counseling and Resource Center that can be an amazing opportunity for our students to go speak to a professional about the things that they're going to. So just make certain you're aware of the counseling center. It's located on the 3rd floor of Evans Commons. And just make certain that if you have any concerns, you can directly reach out to Jonathan and he can make certain he gets your students taken care of. So what are some things that you can do as a supervisor in addition to being educated and informed about mental health concerns? There are some very easy adjustments that you can make to be more supportive to everyone in your workplace. When you think about all of the many job responsibilities that your department has, naturally there are going to be some jobs that people have to do that kind of give you lower job satisfaction, and people don't want to do those things. And yes, those things do need to still be done, but maybe if you adjust the assignment of tasks and let people choose or give them more control over the jobs that they have, sometimes just having a say-so in what their responsibilities are might help them feel a little more comfortable in their role. I mentioned education earlier and being open about mental health issues. Just simply talking about mental health issues can in turn create a more supportive environment so someone does feel more comfortable coming to you and saying, hey, I'm kind of going through some things right now and I may need a little more understanding. Like Candace mentioned, maybe they might miss a deadline and maybe there is an underlying reason. It's not just that they're lazy or they don't care about their job. There really might be something bigger going on. So just creating that space where people do feel comfortable coming to you and identifying that they may be going through something. Another important thing is to be a little flexible with your staff. Maybe some mornings getting out of bed is a struggle in itself. So maybe adjusting their work schedule to where they come in a little bit later could be something that you could do. Or, you know, I know sometimes when I can see that somebody's going through something, I say, let's go take a walk. Let's just take a walk through the building, get out of the office and talk about what's going on. So giving them breaks throughout the day might be something that can help. Making these accommodations doesn't mean that your employee doesn't have to still fulfill their responsibilities. Of course they do. But maybe being a little more flexible with them on deadlines or helping them sit down and map out a plan for how they can complete things in a timely manner can help. Be understanding when there may be excessive absences. For people struggling with mental health issues, as Candace mentioned, sometimes it's also tied to a medical issue. They may have doctor's appointments. They may be going to see a counselor. So I'm not saying that you need to, you know, be okay with them missing 4 days out of the week every week. Of course, that's not okay, but be a little more understanding if they do have excessive absences, because there may be a number of appointments that they need to go to. But definitely always remain open and understanding with them. And all of these accommodations, of course, you want to make certain that you are abiding by HR's policies. So you can call Candace over at HR and find out, hey, are these things okay? Is it okay if I have this employee adjust their schedule to do a 10 to 7 schedule as opposed to an 8 to 5? These do obviously all need to be okayed by HR. But I think at the end of the day, just creating a space where people feel comfortable. And again, maybe they don't come directly to you and say, I'm depressed, but they do feel comfortable coming to you and saying, hey, I'm going through something right now. I need a little more understanding, and just being open and flexible with them can definitely create a safe space for employees who may be struggling with, or even our students who are struggling with something and just need a little extra TLC and understanding. So, do y'all have any questions? That's all we have today. We didn't want to make this, you know, too terribly long on Friday morning for you. But if you do ever come across an issue that you don't know how to handle, Candace is a great resource to reach out to. Jonathan's also another resource. Just make certain you're aware of the resources that the university has to offer and that you're definitely utilizing those resources.